Welcome today to Tracey Phillips, aka Karissa Knight. This is her first interview, kind of as Karissa. I mean, she's definitely Tracey, but she writes also as Karissa Knight. So this is her first interview talking about her Karissa Knight series. I'm just so pleased that you're joining me today and that I get to be the first person who asks you some nitty gritty questions about writing as an alter ego. And that's a big decision to make. So that's where I'm going to jump in first is why or how did you make the decision to not use Tracey Phillips, which you've also written books as, with your author name? What was really the reason behind having to have another pen name or another author name?
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Val, first for having me. And it's so great to talk to you. And a little nerve-wracking too, because I've been hiding behind my pseudonym for a while. And so there was a lot of reasons that, having a pseudonym made sense to me. First of all, I teach piano lessons, and so I'm around, a lot of children and stuff like that. And that was something I needed to separate this thing from all of that. Kind of didn't really want anybody to, accidentally find my books while looking for piano lessons or something like that, yeah. So that was the biggest part of that decision. And, and as I got into the writing part of it, the client was the first book that I ever pitched to agents that I ever tried to get traditionally published. And of course, those were terrible, terrible drafts back in the day. And though people were kind of looking for it, I think nobody really wanted to touch anything quite as spicy as I was writing. But, and I learned from that. And then when I started writing like more traditional mysteries and thriller, I was like, well, I'm going to use my name for that. It made so much more sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And I think that's always a question. So for instance, I write in the middle grade in the YA space with my name. And eventually I may very well write adult like suspense, and maybe some things will be more romantic suspense. There'll come a point that I'll have to make that decision. Like if I end up doing something that's, relatively spicy, do I need to segregate that, those audiences with a pen name? It's a decision a lot of people have to make. And for me too, it's even harder because of the fact that I'm publishing middle grade and YA, which is,
right.
It's tricky. So you like working with kids, writing for kids, like you've got that same issue with your piano lessons.
Right.
I totally understand that. And your books are spicy. They're a little spicy.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. So, and I think, to be honest, I was just at a conference where E.L. James was one of the authors there, and I've met her before. And of course, E.L. James wrote 50 Shades of Grey, and there's, granted, books of that nature and that subject matter and tone had been around for a really long time. But I think E.L. James brought that into bestseller territory. Yeah, mainstream. And so I think there's just a little bit more acceptance of books that go into that territory where you've got some more spicy bedroom scenes that are not going to be for the average reader. Not everybody's going to want to read that.
Exactly.
But a lot of people do. So that's, well, and I read all the books and I think they're very well done. And I think that, there's space for stories that have that level of spice and intimacy and interesting bedroom scenes. I mean, we're not going to get into all of that, but so
right.
Let's just walk through. So it's a 3-book series. The Client is the first one. Book 2, remind me of the name of book 2.
The Contract.
The Contract. And then book 3
is Cliff Diver.
So, and that's the one, of course, I most recently read. But I think part of what makes books that have all those spicy scenes in them interesting is when they're embedded in a really good story, right? I love your level of suspense and the intrigue and all the things happening to these people that are outside the bedroom, right? So you've got the one aspect of things and it's their private relationship. But you have all the suspenseful elements and the bad guys and all the things that are going down outside, that intimate, personal story of theirs. So I mean, and that makes me segue over to your books as Tracey Phillips, right? You're a really good suspense thriller type writer, and you bring that to the series too. So
Thank
I love
you.
that, and I'm curious though, like which parts do you prefer? Which parts do you prefer writing? Do you like? I mean, you obviously can write those bedroom scenes. Personally, I've tried to write those kind of scenes. I can't do it, so I'm more power to you. But which part do you like? Do you like the suspenseful, like action scenes better, or do you like writing the bedroom scene?
I like the action scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite chapter in this book has, nothing to do with spice. And it's a chase scene. So that's totally my favorite. But you know what? Back to your thing about writing the spicy scenes, I was not always good at it. I had a very good editor early on who had worked with other authors in that genre, and she sort of like led me through like do's and don'ts of writing that type of scene. It was
So
very helpful.
I mean, it's tricky, right? Because
Yes.
it can, it's, I don't know. There's like special thesaurus, for like body parts and things, right? Like
Right.
describing sex scenes can be awkward. Let's be honest. Like if you
It
don't get it
can
right,
be, and you really don't want to use descriptive terms like pillar or yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? You don't know, use actual body part names because that's what people know.
Yes. Yes. I was just at Book Bonanza in Texas like a week ago, and that is primarily a romance conference, but it's all genres, every type, sweet, cozy, mystery, romance mixes, all the way up to things like that E.L. James writes. But there was a panel discussion where people were being asked, about that type of writing and whatever, and they were also being asked about research and about the craziest questions they've ever gotten. So this is really your first interview as Karissa Knight. So I mean, obviously, some people know you are. I mean, a good number of people probably do. Have you gotten any awkward, weird questions, maybe other than this one right now, about about writing, a very sexy, type of genre? I mean, has anybody ever approached you and asked weird things?
No, I haven't. No, but there's, one thing that I kind of want to address too is that I've heard some people say that having the actual sex on the page interrupts the tension. And I think in these books it doesn't, because their relationship is based on that kind of sexual tension. And and I can see where people would think that, yeah, you want to dive into that like bedroom scene and really what's happening with the suspense outside the room. It sort of does put a big like put the brakes on it, right? But
Well,
um but I think
yeah,
in
no,
this
I agree.
story, in this story, because the relationship, because Mina was curious to begin with, and she thought that maybe he could fulfill her needs. Um, there is a sexual tension and dynamic between them, especially in book two, that eventually gets resolved. So
I can see that criticism. I would argue, though, that when people say that the bedroom scenes take them out of the action, then perhaps the bedroom scenes aren't being written quite right.
it
Um,
could be.
maybe. I mean, so I mean, I guess if you're plunking them into an action adventure story, whatever, and it's a sweet romance scene, then yes, that makes sense. But I would say that your scenes, it's a different level of tension. It's a different, it's not the outside forces, it's the tension between your two main characters, Jonathan and Mina. I mean, it makes
Right.
a lot. It works. It makes a lot of sense to the storyline. One thing that I found really interesting though is that in book three, they aren't together for a good portion of the book. And the
Most of
sexual
the book.
tension, yeah, right. The sexual tension comes in the form of flashbacks. which I thought you did really, really well. And that had to be tricky. I
Mm.
mean, as you started to write this, they couldn't be in the same place for the story to make sense, right?
Right.
How did you approach that? Did you always know what you were going to do with that to keep the same level of spice, moving throughout the story?
I mean, because of that, I guess I did. I knew that it was going to have to be that, and I didn't want to disappoint the readers who were looking for, that intimacy and those scenes in there too. And so I mean, I felt like I had to find a way to, do the flashbacks and get it in there. But thanks, I'm glad it works.
Oh no, it totally worked. I was like, but I started to read it and I'm like, oh, they're not even in the same place. We're not even get any of these really like sassy scenes here, like how is this going to work? And then like I should have trusted you as a writer. And then of course you brought us those scenes in certain chapters. But I love the location of this. The majority of this is set in Greece or the Greek islands. Tell me about the research for this. Did you go to Greece or did you use other types of research?
No, mostly because I started writing it during the pandemic.
Oh.
And yeah, so no, we haven't been, but it's a bucket list. I think we're going to try and get there next year. So I totally want to trace Mina's journey through Greece because she flies into Athens and then she goes to some of the islands. But first, the reason why they're in Greece is because Jonathan is chasing after his arch enemy, Rory Bradford, who I don't know if it's a spoiler alert or not. She turns out to be the daughter of a transnational organized crime leader. So
yeah, she's a very bad person that we love to hate.
yes, but Jonathan is, thinking of Mina's safety and, of the future of his life and everything. And he decides to go after her and put an end to it. And then he disappears.
I know. So he's done such a good thing. He's like a good guy, right? He's standing up for and he's going to go and fix this so that Mina doesn't have to deal with this ever again. And then, and I don't want to spoil the story. And then maybe perhaps other things happen.
But anyway, so she ends up going from Athens to the island of Milos, and she takes a catamaran there. And then there she meets somebody else, and she travels with him on a yacht to Crete. And then they go back up through the Carpathos Islands, and then they find where Rory lives. Did you know there's like over 1,000 islands in the Aegean Sea?
I had no idea. I mean, we tend to focus just on the ones that are the big tourist spots like Santorini or Crete or whatever, right? Like we don't think about those. So I mean, there's a lot of little spots, which really good for suspense, like thriller novel, like where you're going to plunk people down to hide them out, right?
Right.
So
yeah, and
you
so
picked a really
I'm
good
like,
spot.
Where does Rory live? And so I started doing, searching all the islands and stuff. And have you ever been to like Google Earth and the picture is all like pixelated and so you can't see around that area or whatever?
Yes.
There were islands like that.
Yeah. So what did they have to do? They paid to have their space
the
not
images
invaded.
removed. Yeah. Yeah.
How does that work? Now I want to know. Like, I mean, they're not like military installations, or
maybe they are.
I mean, now I'm curious. Curious. I mean, but I love that we've been to Greece, but we were mainly on the mainland, so we didn't really get to see, the islands. So I love traveling with people in books, to places, and you described everything so well. And like, there's obviously there's some cliff scenes that aren't where Mina is not diving, but I was like, oh, holy cow. Like, I mean, we're just page turning. So really, really well written.
Thank
you.
I
mean, that research, thinking about when you're writing this during the pandemic, what a nice little vacation you got to take with your research to like hang out in Greece while you're picking your locations and how would they navigate this. And I love that.
Yeah.
So I know you had to do other research that was interesting, like pirate research. And it's not like pirate with a patch,
Piracy.
And a parrot. This is like modern day piracy, which is a thing. And
they're
a lot
bad.
of people might not know this. Oh, it's terrible. So tell me about that research. That had to be crazy.
Well, and that's absolutely the case. I mean, so part of it, like you hear on the news about all the like the Russian nationals, owning these super yachts, and and so I'm
Hmm.
wondering, where are they sailing, and so then I have Mina on a yacht with a friend of Jonathan's, and how would they keep these pirates off their yacht and stuff? Anyway, the research was a lot of fun. There are so many like tools that yacht owners can have, at their disposal. One of the things that they had was a dazzle gun, which, like, so if you see it from a distance, it like disorients your vision, or there's a laser beam that temporarily blinds people looking at your yacht. There was they have like water cannons and shipborne launchers. So I'm like, oh, they need some of these things.
You're like building your weapons arsenal off to the side. Like they're
Yeah.
going to have this, they're going to have that. Was there
And
something to do with radar blocking? Was there something like is
yeah,
there something that does that? Okay.
there, well, yeah. And so Mina meets some pretty talented individuals.
Hmm.
Um, Michael and Amelia. Michael was a friend of Jonathan's, and so he's skilled at
Hmm.
fighting martial arts and that kind of thing. But he also, oh gosh, I forget now. I have to think back. He
Like
was
what was his backstory?
right. What was his backstory? He was like ex Black Ops or something like that. And
Yeah.
the girl that he's with, Amelia, is brilliant at all this like tech stuff, and she has her set up on their yacht so that she can do radar blocking so that they can't find them with radio imaging or whatever. I also have like some scenes in there with drones, so
Yes,
weaponized drones too, because you know
they're a thing.
terrorists are nasty people, right?
That part of that felt so realistic though, because if you have an operation the size of the bad guys in your stories have, they're going to have all those bells and whistles, all those tools at their disposal, and they're after Mina and whoever she's with, right? They are tracking them, they're trying to find them actively. It's not like the random modern day pirate who's just looking, to steal things or steal a yacht or whatever. I mean, they're actively being tracked for violent purpose, right? They
Right.
want to stop them. I love those scenes. You had so many good action scenes, and I loved all the tech and just I don't know. It's so good on a suspense level, the thriller level of the story. I was like, whew, this is so awesome. But and it really was, it's a 3-book series, right? So you're done. You've done your full arc, or have you? Will there be more?
One of the editors said, "Oh, this is a good place for more to happen." So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, as an author, I have so many ideas, too many ideas. And
Right, right.
yeah,
Well, maybe someday you'll come back to them. Maybe like
maybe.
fast forward, there'll be some other storyline with some of the same characters, whatever.
Yeah,
But it was fun. I mean, you enjoyed writing the series, right?
I really did.
Marketing anything with certain spice levels becomes a little bit more difficult because there's like the barriers or the filters, right?
Yeah, we
So
figured that out. It's you were helping me try to advertise on Amazon.
they didn't
Uh,
like it. They
they
don't like
didn't.
certain categories. So if you're actually honest about what category books belong in, which you want to be honest because you want people to understand what they're reading, yeah, then it like locks you out of certain types of ad systems,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So are you still able to do Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So
do plan
Facebook,
on doing Facebook ads with the new release, which comes out July 9th, by the way.
so out today. Yay. This is
Yay, out
exciting, right?
today. You can buy
um,
it today.
just really good reading. And for anyone who likes, romantic suspense, it's romantic suspense with an elevated spice level. But this is what this is. I mean, Mina loves Jonathan. She is not gonna like, let him, be, I don't want to do any spoilers here, but she's not going to just let this play out. Mina is an
Right.
active participant in the suspense side of things.
Right,
Um,
actually.
and
Yeah. And so when he disappears, she goes after him, which is why she's in
yes,
Greece. She goes looking for him because she realizes this is true love for her, and she's devoted to him, and she could see how devoted he was to her, and she wants to match that. She wants to be there for him, and if he's in trouble, she's going to find him.
Yeah, and I think that's perfect because we really love them as a couple. Like, and you've done so in series, it's always difficult because you've got to have that ongoing arc for the series. And each of these books works on its own, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
have the end of that suspenseful portion of the book, but we've got this ongoing relationship that really develops over time. And I mean, that's the trick of writing series, and it's the hard part, I think, of writing series. Did you plan that? Did you plan out like that full series arc, or did it just develop over time, or did you really know where you were going when you started book one?
Um, I kind of knew where I was going. I didn't know, like, all of the things. I wasn't sure, like the suspense side of it didn't really come to me for book 3 until I'd finished the contract.
That makes sense. Yeah.
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 So
And
I
then,
mean, I knew as for the couple arc where I wanted them to be, but yeah.
but I mean, and works. And I like 3 book series. I feel like that's a really nice, number of books for a series. But so do you have other series as Tracey Phillips in the works? I mean, I know Best Kept Secrets. Is there a sequel to that? Will there be more?
There is a sequel. Unfortunately, my publisher doesn't want it. Um,
Ugh.
so, I have plans for, the future of Tracey S. Phillips books. I would like to continue Morgan Jules.
Yeah. And I love her. She's great.
Yeah. And she has more to come and more to say about what happened with her, because that book really leaves you sort of hanging as well. You're,
Mhm.
wondering who killed Faye Ramsey.
Do you prefer, I know you've written standalones too. Do you have a preference, series versus standalones?
Um, I like standalones because then you can be done.
There's
But
more freedom, right? There's freedom
there
to,
is.
yeah, yeah.
But, when you're writing a series, it's kind of nice because you have the characters all developed. I mean, you're going to bring in new characters for each book, but you have your protagonist down by that point, right? And you should have most of the location down unless you're moving that person around. Um, which is fun to explore too. But I think, you have so much of it sort of already in place
Yes,
that,
yes.
yeah, it's not as hard.
No. Well, and I mean, I like both. And then the problem I have is I go to write a standalone, and then I start to think, ooh, I kind of like these characters, people, because like they're real to us, right? And you're like, maybe I do want to hang out with them more. Can I make this into a series? Then my brain goes off on this like tangent, and
Yeah,
it was meant to be a standalone, right?
right.
So
Yeah, no, and I have one like that too that I want to publish. It's a YA. But the character's young, and I can see her like getting older and developing her skills, and um
yes, and I've read that one. And do you have a title for that, or just a working title?
forewarned.
Forewarned. And that character, ooh, I would love to see her into her 20s.
Right.
And yeah, oh, for sure. See, it was supposed to be a standalone, and now we're like going to plan it out here.
Yeah. Well, no, that one, as I wrote it, I always kept thinking, I want to see her, get older, but obviously that can't happen in this book,
No,
So
no, no, no.
as I'm editing it, even that's what I'm working on right now. I'm editing that and getting it ready to publish.
Yay, I'm
Yay.
excited. I am excited. Do you think that will that be out this year, later this year, do you think? Or
I'm
next year?
thinking probably January or February,
Okay, so
and that
really
might
not
be
that long.
yeah, hopefully. So, yeah, I hope that I can get that one out there soon, and then I can start writing the sequel.
There you go. There you go. So will you continue on in with Karissa Knight? Will you continue on and write new books with that level of spice?
Not not right now. That's not in the
Mhm.
works right now. It's possible that, after I get like the 3 books on my that I have written published, that I might, dive into another one. I don't know that it would be the same series.
Right. You might just choose another, but it would match your Karissa Knight branding, new characters, new storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sort of like you can go back and forth, one for this series, one for that series. I'm planning
Yeah.
your life. I'm planning your life out for
Thank
you.
you. Somebody needs to.
No, that's presumptuous. No. Um, but this is exciting. I'm so glad for you. This is a hard decision. And then just to come out and talk about, having written something that is different than your initial, books that, you started with as Tracey S. Phillips. And it's a hard decision. I think it was the right decision, but it complicates things. You have to have a separate website or,
Yeah.
there's all those things with the two identities and branding and then engaging with both identities on social media. I mean,
Right.
it's a lot of work. Are you happy you did it? If you could go back, maybe that's the wrong question. If you would go back, would you do it the same way? That's a better question.
Probably. And,
Okay.
I mean, the thing is that I've learned so much. Like I've met so many people since the pandemic and stuff like that, and with Blackbird writers,
Mhm.
people who independently publish, people who've pulled away from their publishers and agents, people who've decided to go at it all, alone. And
Mhm.
they're killing it, you know?
Yes.
And so it was an experiment for me with this series to try and get my books independently published, see if I liked it, see how it goes, And despite not being able to advertise, they're doing really, really well right now because I'm promoting, book 3.
Right.
So
Right.
I doubt if I'll ever make back what I paid for editing, but they're out there, and books stay out there forever, basically, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then I learned so much about independent publishing that now I feel confident that I can go that route with my other stuff, with my thrillers.
Well, and that is certainly a learning curve, right? All the
Yeah,
ins and outs, and just, there's just a lot of pieces things that you wouldn't even know as you begin that you have to learn how to do. And whatever you can do yourself saves you money, right? Because you pay for the editing, you paid for book covers, right? So wherever you can learn some of the other things and not pay for services,
right.
it makes it that much easier to get into the profit zone. I'm so glad though that you decided to experiment and write as Karissa Knight, because I've enjoyed these stories a lot. I really have. I thought they were great reads. I mean, I continue to be a fan of Tracey S. Phillips, but this was fun. And I know it's not everybody likes this level of spice. That's fine. But not
Right.
everybody likes what I write, and I write YA that's pretty tame. So there's room for all of us out there, and there's fans for all of our work. So
Exactly.
there. So
Yeah.
congratulations though on having the third book coming out. This is
Yep.
just
Thank
well
you.
well well done, you. Well
Thank,
done.
thank
And I
you.
should add, so Tracey and I are both part of the Blackbird Writers. Tracey is the founder of the Blackbird Writers, which is a group of, are we at 24? Are we
We are.
24 Blackbirds? And we write all different kinds of suspense and thriller and mystery. And I'll make sure to, in the notes for this, link to that too, so you can see the work that all of our wonderful Blackbirds do as well. But I'll make sure to have links to Tracey's books, as well as links, to her Karissa Knight books and all kinds of goodies out there, so that you can find her books wherever you like to buy them. So
Awesome.
thank
Well,
you.
thank you
Thanks for
so
joining me.
much for talking to me today. This has been great. And yeah, there's just so much to talk about with, all the brands.
Yeah, there really is. Wait, and before we leave, did I miss anything that you wanted me to cover?
No, I
Okay.
can't think of a thing. So no,
Very good.
I really appreciate being here, and thank you so much for
Well,
getting
and
me out of the closet. And
well, thanks for trusting me for your first, Karissa Knight, engagement, shall we say?